So in this segment, we're going to be talking about long queues at the Calais port. The port that's typically for people going to the UK via ferry. I mean, this is embarrassing from the BBC as well. They really dropped the ball on it because we know the reason behind these massive queues is partly down to traffic. A lot of people coming back for the holidays, but it's also down to the fact that their passports have to be checked, which takes time. And I've got a feeling these are British staff here in the French side, because the ports are juxtaposed. So you have French staff on the British side in Dover, and you've got British staff in the French side in Calais. I would be surprised if the British staff are anywhere near as fast as the French staff. And the other irony is the French port is actually bigger. So I think that allows more kind of booths and things like that. So it's down to the UK not manning the staffs properly, not manning the booths properly. So travellers heading to the UK have suffered delays of up to 6 hours as they queued at the port of Calais. The Independent put those queues at about 8 hours. Ferry operators DFDS, P&O ferries apologised for the long wait times, and the BBC have updated this article dramatically here, but it's still not great. You got headline: ferry companies apologise for long waits here, but it's not the ferry company's fault. You can't blame the ferry companies for this. You've got Leanne Wood, someone who's travelling, saying the reason for the delay seemed to be the British passport control. They seemed to be on go slow. They knew there would be British families coming back, but it was as if they wanted to create misery to make a point. And I don't think that's true. I think they probably should have the staff, because it would be the UK who would fund all the staff here. I don't know how many of these booths are open. These pictures are quite grainy, but the fact is, if they were empty booths, it was the fact that the UK didn't put the staff in place. DFDS warned on social media about some of this stuff, but you can see they added a significant amount to this article, but a lot of it's still filler. It's just people's kind of individual stories. There were similar wait times in Calais just days earlier on the 24th due to extra traffic arriving from the Eurotunnel, but the main problem is that they have to check people's passports, which I think the French take around 90 seconds to check someone's passport. I wouldn't be surprised if on the British side it takes longer. And the BBC added a lot here, but again, it's so much of it is just filler. The Independent actually did much better work on their coverage of it. You got massive disruptions at the port, we know that. At the port, Peter Naldret said his family was stuck in a ludicrous queue for about 8 hours before reaching the UK border control post. So it's much longer the time quoted to the Independent, at least for this individual person. The writer, he said, all the ferry staff I've spoken to have told me that it's been the UK border checks causing the delays all week. All week they've been causing delays here. So what does that tell you? Just the fact that this juxtaposed system isn't working because Brexit isn't allowing it to work. Brexit's causing all sorts of problems for the French side of the border. You can see here, this is a much bigger port, I think, than the one in Dover. Much bigger, many more lanes here than there is in the Dover port, and they're still having massive problems. I don't know how many of these are open. Maybe the X markers say they're closed, but there's still cars in the lane, so it's a bit difficult to tell. I've never gone through a port like this, so I couldn't tell you, so I'm sure someone in the comments would be able to. But why the BBC are covering this stuff up, I don't know. The UK government is pretty incompetent, said one of the people, referring to Home Secretary Patel, adding that he believed the delays had everything to do with the government supposedly running the country, which he's not wrong about, because, at the end of the day, these checks will take longer. It's just a fact. You can't wave people through. You've got to physically check the passport, check the stamps, and put a new stamp on, which takes time. If they're EU citizens coming through, you've got to ask them a series of questions, blah, blah, blah. But typically, these would be British people, I think, coming back from their holidays. So you got to stamp it, hand it back. But if there's 4 people in the card, that's 4 stamps. A Home Office for Comment spokesperson said Border Force continue to work closely with operators, French counterparts, and blah, 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 blah. But the simple fact is, you can't blame the French for this. It doesn't make any sense for them to blame the ferry operators. Get this, people. This is what I'm trying to explain in this video, right? The reason why we had such extreme queues in Dover at the start of the holidays, right, was because the French didn't put enough staff in the border control post. They didn't turn up and blah, blah, blah. And the reason why we're having such long queues at Calais is because of passport checks, right? So how does that make any sense? It's down to the passport checks on both sides here. You can't really blame the ferries either, because P&O and DFDS have added extra ferries. This is not on them. This is on the British government, because we're the ones who have to hire staff to work these booths. at the end of the day. So if there aren't enough staff there, that's down to the government. And even if there is enough staff there, despite how efficiently they may or may not be, the simple fact is, because of Brexit, their passports have to be stamped. The people on holiday, their passports have to be stamped. And what that means is it adds time. In every, if you add a minute or two to each person's passport, when you have hundreds of cars, maybe thousands of cars, that's potentially 1 to 4 minutes per car, depending on how many passports, how many people there are in the car. So it's pretty wild that, the BBC didn't go, they didn't try and blame the ferries for this one, but their headline, deeply misleading. Even if we look at, the kind of, I'm surprised they haven't gone for a Brexit headline here, because again, it is down to Brexit, this one. The fact is, because we've left the EU, there's no freedom of movement, which means everyone's passports get checked, properly checked. You can't just wave them through when it's busy like they used to before. You have to physically check people's passports, check the stamps, etc. That's what has to happen now. And it's just sad, really, isn't it? But it's very clear that the people in the queues are blaming the British border control staff, saying they're very slow. They're trying to prove a point. I don't think that's true. But it's a long day. They probably don't get paid enough. They don't care that much. I wouldn't be surprised. Or it's just there's that many people there. They're just doing their best to get through it as much as they can, without trying to tire themselves out too much or burning themselves out. But it's just not an ideal situation. Maybe if you're trying to go on holiday to the EU, maybe you're best off taking a plane there or something, rather than driving, because the system we have at the ports there is an absolute shambles. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Brexit ruining life on both sides, on the Dover side and on the Calais side. Support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.